Okay, it's 7 o'clock, and I will call the public hearing on the bond article to order. Please rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this public hearing is specifically on the warrant article for the bond issue, which shall read, shall the town of Newton raise and appropriate wrong one. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,691,880 as a gross budget as recommended by the Newton Fire Station Building Committee to pay the costs of design, engineering, site preparation, building construction and renovation, equipment and furnishings for a new fire and rescue station to be located at 8 Merrimack Road, and to authorize the issuance of not more than $1,691,880 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, which is RSA 33, and to authorize the Selectmen to issue and negotiate such bonds or notes to determine the date, maturities, denominations, interest rates, or discount rates in the case of notes, place of payment, form and other details of such bonds or notes, and to enter into such agreements as are necessary to accomplish the financing and completion of such fire and rescue station. This will be requiring a 3/5 ballot vote, and has the caveat, based on information provided by the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank as of January 10th, 2017, it is estimated that the payment of the first year's debt service on the bond authorized by this article would require a 23 cents per thousand of assessed value to be raised by taxes in 2018. Very briefly, first of all, I will let you know the number has been reduced since the public posting for this public hearing. The original was 1,700,000
54 something.
380.
380.
1754, 380.
It's been reduced. By, I believe it was approximately $50,000 to come up with this number. That needs to be put forward, and actually there is no tax increase in 2017 because the bond will be sold in June, and the bond repayment is 12 months later. So actually the bond repayment is usually 8 months later. So it actually will fall in the 2018 fiscal year to start the repayment on the bond. Would anybody like to have any questions, comments? Please identify yourself.
Baker from Newton. I'm just curious what the interest rate is. Have they given you that, or does it depend on when you write it?
We've estimated, but aren't the bond rates going to change in June?
Yeah,
So what we have
No.
now, it won't be the final interest rate?
Okay, yeah, I was just curious, thanks.
Yeah, it's like 3.5%.
So just, because that didn't get picked up on the microphone, so you're saying it's an estimate of 3.5% as we sit here tonight. It, could change.
Can you relay it to the folks out there on TV land?
I related much better than you actually did, so it's perfect. It's
Any other questions or comments? I'm looking around. It's thrilled to see this many people at a public hearing. However, usually somebody's going to say something. I didn't know if there was any presentation from the fire department. Okay. If there are no further questions or comments, are there any questions or comments on behalf of the board? Okay, then our next order of business would be I will entertain a motion
It's only
to
for the
recommend
bond.
or not recommend this warrant
Only for the
article.
bond. Speak for it on the warrant article.
I would move to recommend the warrant article for the fire rescue station bond.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion of that? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous. At this point, I will close the public hearing on the warrant article, and we can move along to the main warrant. What will be Article 4 on the warrant is, shall the town of Newton raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session, for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $3,165,537. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $1,168,716.
3 million.
Excuse me?
3 million.
Oh, okay. Which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town of Newton or by law. Or the governing body may hold one
Sounded
special
like you
meeting in
just said
accordance
he
with
closed the
RSA
warrant
40:1,
The plug was hanging out.
40:13.
Jim, did you open the public hearing for the
Oh,
warrant?
my apologies. I will now open the public hearing for the warrant. I'm not making people salute the flag again. And since we have some people having,
Computer issues. I'll share.
That's cool.
okay, how about Bob's screen looks black.
No, his is on.
No,
Mine's the only one that's black.
Oh, okay.
I was getting power.
Okay, now that my confers are back sort of in line, I'll start it over again. Shall the town of Newton raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth in the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $3,165,537. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $3,168,716, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town of Newton or by law. Or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, subsection 10 and subsection 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. The budget increase from the 2016 actual budget to the 2017 proposed budget represents a tax impact increase of 11 cents per thousand of assessed value.
plugged in, not charging.
Battery was full, so it's just my tablet.
I'll follow that up by saying those are the numbers. We did the best at keeping our pencils nice and sharp and are holding things as low as possible. We actually came up, we looked at the legal default number and said we could do a little better than that and came out with this, and that still allows for a certain increase in areas where they were needed, like the fire department, without cutting any or impacting any of Newton's various subsets of people. Welfare is fully funded. The planning board is well taken care of. There's money still in the rec budget. We left everything pretty much as is. We found a few minor savings. So are there any questions?
Annie Collier. I have a question about the last section of the thing where the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. I've never really understood how that works and what that's for and what it means, so if somebody could explain it,
I
that
can
would be
explain
great.
it. It's part of the legal wording for any budget. because the law allows it, you have to warn people that that is a possibility, is the best way of describing it.
Okay.
The law specifically prescribes the wording for the budget warrant article. And that is part of what if you actually, I don't have the law, the RSA book, but if you pull it up, it actually has the wording, and you sort of plug in numbers. And it has parentheses, quotations at either end, and that's in what the state recommends and DRA acknowledges is the proper wording for.
Okay, so can you describe what that special meeting would be? Would that be like a town hall meeting? Would it be a two-session meeting? I'm just curious how it would work.
It actually ends up being a two-session meeting, but I believe there have to be 7 days between them.
Okay,
You would post a new warrant, you would have another deliberative session. And don't quote me, but as far as I recall, you would have balloting, sorry, that's I'm thinking of the wrong one. At the second one, you post it, you read the warrant, you have your public hearing, and then you ballot.
okay,
It's all in one.
okay, thank you.
It's what we did last year, remember when we didn't hold the right public hearing for the bond, for the fire truck? It's that way. Any other questions?
Now, just to be clear, if the proposed budget is defeated, then the tax impact would be more than 11 cents per thousand, because the default budget is higher. Just want to throw that one out there.
Jim Baker Newton, just want to say nice job. Do any of you want to run for school board?
Been there, done that.
No? Okay.
Any other questions or concerns on any part of the operating budget? A bunch of very tame people tonight. Okay, at this time, I will entertain a motion to either recommend or not recommend the budget.
I move to recommend the proposed budget as written.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous.
So warrant article number 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $12,000 to be deposited into the Engineering and Renovation Capital Reserve Fund created in 2015. Said funds to come from the unassigned fund balance. This represents rental fees received. This article would result in no increase in the amount to be raised by taxes. And this is the rent on 8 Merrimack Road, correct? This is the rent we receive on 8 Merrimack Road.
And it's, it's the rent we already have that we've collected. So I would encourage people to notice that this is zero tax impact. Although it says to raise and appropriate the sum of $12,000, we already have the money. We're just asking the townspeople for the permission to move it into the capital reserve, engineering and renovation capital reserve fund. This is a transactional move, so,
No, sorry, no.
well,
This is
which
for
part of it did I get wrong?
The upcoming year rent
Yep,
allows us to put it in that account. It's not anything in the past.
okay.
Because that money's already in the account.
So I think the main thing is this money is coming from our tenant at 8 Merrimack Road. This does not come from the taxpayers.
Right.
And the purpose of the Engineering and Renovation Capital Reserve Fund?
That was for helping with the building, the new fire station, for engineering or anything else that the board may
But
decide
it could
to
be
use.
used for any town building?
No, it's engineering and renovation.
That's what I mean, it could be for engineering or renovation of any town building?
No, I think the original article said 8 Merrimack Road.
Okay, good.
Okay.
And we can include that if you want to include that in there. If you want to make a motion to include 8 Merrimack Road.
Actually, it probably would be good to have that wording in there.
How do you want to?
Well, double check and make sure, but if it says engineering and renovation capital reserve fund for 8 Merrimack Road, it needs to be,
Well, the last sentence says, "This represents rental fees received
Right, that's
from
just where
tenant
the
at
money's
8
coming.
Merrimack Road."
It's
That's
saying
where I
where
would
it's
put-
coming from, but it's not saying where it could be used.
All I'm saying is if you want to put 8 Merrimack Road, that's where I would put it.
Okay. And that was again where, Matt, I'm sorry?
Last sentence?
Last sentence.
Hmm.
Yep. It was in 8 Merrimack Road last year's warrant article. DRA changed the wording around a little bit, and they didn't include that. So
Oh,
I think
okay.
it's important that we do put that in.
But I think, you know, to clarify again, I might be repeating myself, but I just want to make sure people understand, because last year we got a lot of no votes on this. It successfully passed, but we got a lot of no votes. We're collecting rent from a tenant. And in order to collect that rent and do something with it, in order to use that money later on, we have to have this warrant article, and we have to have this warrant article successfully passed.
any public questions on this one? Mary?
Mary Reardon. How much money is in this fund now?
Basically, we've had a tenant for 2 years.
Say about 20,000,
So the monthly, I think, is it
$850 a month.
$850 a month? Okay. So it's an engineering office that's renting an office for $850 a month, and they've been a tenant roughly 2 years, so whatever the...
How does it come out to 12,000?
And so would this money in this capital reserve fund be used in conjunction with the money from the bond to do whatever we're doing at the fire station there?
It could be.
It
Actually,
could be.
Yeah, it could be.
Could be, yeah.
Was it anticipated it would be?
That's the intention, yep.
So the money in the bond figures is,
Well, the
it's
bond,
like 24 grand
the
short.
bond money should
Okay.
cover what they want to build.
Right.
This was for engineering and architecture, if they wanted to put an addition on it or something like that. Not an addition, but change the plans a little bit,
Okay,
so.
I think the key thing to remember too is if the bond fails and this succeeds, we'll still have the
Fine.
money to use, yeah, essentially.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Any,
Hi, Kathy Meserve, Newton. Do the selectmen already have, what is that, authority to expend in this capital reserve? Or would you have to have another warrant article to say, is it okay to spend money out
No,
of
the
this fund?
selectmen are agents.
right.
There are, okay, so you already
When
can.
when it was created, the Board of Selectmen was made the agents who have the ability to, we still have to have a public hearing, it has to be publicly noticed, sort of like what we just did for the bond, before we could spend a penny of that, so people could,
Okay, but you already have the authority to do that.
right.
Thank you.
Further questions? Hearing none, I will ask for a motion on whether to recommend or not to recommend.
Make a motion to recommend warrant article number 5
Is there a
as
second?
written.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Warrant article number 6, to see if the town will vote as proposed by the Board of Selectmen to raise and appropriate the sum of $35,000 to hold a hazardous waste day for Newton residents only, and to authorize the withdrawal of $35,000 from the transfer station recycling special revenue fund created in 2003 for this purpose. This article would result in no increase in the amount to be raised by taxes. So this is a fund that's already established.
And this is our tradition. One day we do vouchers. 1 year we do vouchers, next year we do the hazardous waste day. So They're typically successful and well used.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to recommend or not recommend.
I move to recommend warrant Article 6 as written.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous.
That's me, right? I get the long one?
You're 70.
Hey,
Article number 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $31,547 for the following community services. Area Home Care and Family Services for $3,800. Child Advocacy Center for $2,000. Child and Family Services for $2,000. Drugs and Dangerous for $2,500. Family Mediation for $5,947. Haven, $3,050, Lamprey Healthcare for $1,600, NHSPCA for $750, Rockingham County Community Action for $5,000, Rockingham Nutrition Meals on Wheels for $2,200, Vic Geary Center for $2,700 for a total of $31,547. This article would result in a 6-cent increase per $1,000 of assessed value to be raised by taxes.
does anybody have any questions?
Mary Reardon. We have one of these articles every year, correct?
Correct.
So are we saying that this amount of money is gonna raise the tax rate 6 cents over what we voted in last year?
No. Because this is 6 cents more than what the taxes would be on the operating budget. It was an extra,
Right.
maybe 5 cents last year per thousand. This year, it's 6 cents, so it's an,
But it's not 6 cents above our current tax rate. It's 6 cents above the tax rate that will come about because of the operating budget of this.
No.
no. none.
These items do not carry over in the default budget.
Right.
So when I read the thing earlier, that is 11 cents increase over last year's operating budget. You'd actually have to compare this to what it was last year. It may be an actual 1 cent increase in the taxes. However, you have to post it at its actual impact as if it hadn't been done last
Okay.
year, and this is the first time it was being presented.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Well, see, there you go.
It hasn't
These
changed
numbers didn't
much.
really change much.
Yeah.
So the end result,
The main thing I think everyone needs to remember is these social services keep our welfare budget down. If we didn't have these, our welfare budget would go sky high. And that is not in the operating budget to do that. So this does work out better in the long run.
Well, it's the standard economics of scale. It's a lot easier, like Meals on Wheels, they can produce, I believe they do produce meals for, it's like 14,000 people in Rockingham County on a daily basis. Newton couldn't do that for the recipients in Newton for this kind of money. But they've got, big equipment and all of that. It works out. Any further discussion on this?
and the other thing is, almost everyone in town stands to benefit from these community services. People with children, people with family, people with animals, people with health issues, senior citizens. I mean, you've got the whole range of residents who can benefit from these services. So it's not geared towards a specific demographic. And that is important as well.
Anything further? If not, I will entertain a motion to recommend or not recommend.
I would move to recommend Article 7.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
All right, warrant Article 8, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate as proposed by the Recreation Commission the sum of $4,200 for recreational programs and trips for Newton senior citizens. This article would result in a 1 cent increase per $1,000 of assessed value to be raised by taxes.
Would anybody like to discuss this?
This is an article we have every year. It's usually very successful. The trips are well attended, and I think they're well deserved. Hopefully.
Having chaperoned them for quite a number of years now, I can say they're very well attended.
Right.
And a lot of people are very grateful because there's usually quite a number of people on the bus who would not be able to make the trip if it weren't for the town doing this. The only thing that I do have is, if it impacts the bottom line at all, it has to be a penny. We don't list things by fractions of pennies. But I suspect that $42,000 is actually less than a penny per thousand.
4,200.
4,200.
4,200.
Yeah, you guys go to Vegas this
I
year.
know. That'd be a great trip.
Okay, it's been a long day. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to recommend or not recommend.
I would move to recommend Article 8.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Okay, warrant Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, as proposed by the Recreation Commission, the sum of $7,000 for the purpose of sponsoring an Old Home Day to bring the community together with free entertainment and events for the families, similar to the event last held in the town on October 3rd, 2015. This article would result in a 1 cent increase per 1,000 of assessed value raised by taxes.
And I don't know about anybody else, but I really missed not having one last year. It was a lot of fun. Again, an Old Home Day is something that everyone in town can participate in. The kids love it. I hear a lot of times that, well, there's really not a lot for the kids to do. This is an activity that we can support, and the children have a ball with it. The adults have a ball with it. And I would really like to see it pass this year.
I was a little disappointed because October 3rd, 2015 was the last time we had it, and it was incredibly well attended. There were a ton of people that came, and we thought we had something successful that would carry on, and unfortunately it was voted down last year. So I'm hoping people kind of reconsider it this year and remember that that was the event that was so well attended, and we weren't able to do it this year because of the vote. No means no.
And this year, last year was 10,000, correct?
I put nine something, yeah, so
okay.
rounding up to 10,000. What was it?
Roger.
So 9,655, so we cut around $3,000 out of it to make it more appetizing to voters, so.
Thank you. Any public wish to comment?
You should have sat closer, Jim, I think. Yeah.
Getting my 10,000 steps in. Jim Baker, Newton. I'm just wondering if people are having a hard time relating to the name Old Home Day. We used to call it Newton Day, right?
Newton Town Day.
How about Newton Old Home Day? I mean, Old Home Day is just so kind of vague in my mind, you know? Just an idea. Yeah.
Doesn't that have to be changed at the deliberative?
What?
Any changing of the warrant articles, doesn't that get done at the deliberative?
You could make changes to it.
Do it tonight, too?
The,
Okay.
the only thing I would say is, in marketing, yeah, we should probably do that, but just so everybody understands, unlike the school warrant, every article is for Newton in this warrant. So if we're talking about the school, it's a little different because it covers several towns,
Yes.
but hopefully everybody understands when we talk about an Old Home Day, we're talking about for Newton.
I don't see any problem with putting the word Newton in there. I think
Yeah, I mean,
Newton
actually, I
Old
kind of
Home
like
Day.
the idea, simply because it actually gives the day an actual title.
Annie Collier. I just wanted to make a comment about the reduction in the amount for it. Basically, what we did is on recreation, we took out the fireworks and decided that if we were to have fireworks, we would be asking local businesses perhaps to donate for them. We are retaining in this proposal having free entertainment, games, climbing apparatus, things like that were so popular with children and really kept people occupied all day. Also, our own Matt Burrow will be helping us with DJs and bringing in bands and entertainment all day. So it's a really fun event for many, many people in the town. And unlike the Kingston days, everybody doesn't have to pay for every single thing that they do, for taking a trampoline or doing anything like that. They can just go and just do it. I know I did the inflatable house with difficulty, but I did the inflatable house climbing. And it's a fun day, so.
It was indeed. And considering the number of people that showed up at the trunk or treat,
yeah,
I mean, people seem to actually have a desire to have this type of thing in the town of Newton.
yeah. I hope that since last year, people have reevaluated and hopefully we'll be more successful this year.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to recommend or not recommend.
Motion to recommend Article 9 as written.
Well, to add
exchange,
Newton.
adding Newton Old Home Day.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Okay, warrant Article 10, to see if the town will vote to modify the elderly exemptions from property tax in the town of Newton. Based on assessed value for qualified taxpayers to be as follows. For the person 65 years of age up to 74 years of age, $85,000. For person 75 years of age up to 79 years of age, $95,000. For person 80 years of age or older, $110,000. To qualify, the applicant must have resided in the state for at least 3 consecutive years, own the real estate individually or jointly, or if the real estate is owned by such a person's spouse, they must have been married for at least 5 years. In addition, the taxpayer must have a net income of not more than $35,000, or if married, a combined net income of less than $45,000, and own net assets not to excess of $65,000, including the value of the person's residence. This article would result in no increase in the amount to be raised by taxes.
Discussion. What I will tell you is this basically increases very slightly the amount that people in those age brackets would have their assessment reduced by for the purpose of calculating their taxes. I believe at the moment it's 65 for.
Hold on. 65 to 85 for 65 years of age to 74.
Right.
And 95 from 85 for
Okay.
ages 75 to 79. And then the 110 stayed the same. We didn't adjust that one.
Okay. So we increased slightly those two lower brackets and raised very slightly the net income. Are there any questions? Hearing none. No questions or concerns? I will entertain a motion to recommend or not recommend.
I move to recommend Article 10 as written.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
My turn. Warrant Article 11, shall the town of Newton vote to adopt the provisions of RSA 72:61 through 64 inclusively, which provide for an optional property tax exemption from the property's assessed value for property tax purposes for persons owning real property which is equipped with solar energy systems intended for use at the immediate site. Such property tax exemption shall be in the amount equal to $20,000 of the assessed value of qualifying solar energy system equipment under these statutes. As you can see, as we're getting to the 21st century, so are our exemptions. We do have people who are putting solar systems in town. It's energy saving, it's environmentally friendly for that purpose as well. And Newton isn't the first to do this, but this is the next course.
And this article would result in no increase in the amount to be raised by taxes.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, hearing none, I will entertain a motion on recommending or not recommending.
I'll move to recommend warrant Article 11 as written.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous.
Warrant Article 12. Shall the town of Newton vote to adopt the provisions of RSA 72:28-B, all veterans tax credit? If adopted, the credit will be available to any resident or the spouse or surviving spouse of any resident who, one, served not less than 90 days on active service in the armed forces of the United States and was honorably discharged, or an officer honorably separated from services and is not eligible for or receiving a credit under RSA 72:28 or RSA 72:35. If adopted, the credit granted will be $500, the same amount as the standard or optional veterans tax credit voted by the town of Newton under RSA 72:28. This article would result in no increase in the amount to be raised by taxes.
So this is just adoption of an RSA that was passed a few months ago in Concord. This basically expands the eligibility for the veterans tax credit because there are some folks that spent many years in the service but were never on active duty. And this, if they meet the requirements Lisa just read here, then they would be eligible for the tax credit. So I think it's a good thing to include some folks that they did serve, but they might have not met all the previous requirements. So this would be a vote for us to adopt it, and the state legislature has already passed it.
Any further discussion? In that case, I will entertain a motion to recommend or not recommend.
I move to recommend warrant Article 12 as written.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? That's unanimous. And Article 13, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to develop and implement policies which would allow and regulate private trash haulers wishing to offer for a fee Newton resident curbside pickup and unloading at the transfer station. This is not a money article. This is simply to authorize the Board of Selectmen to develop and implement policy.
And the reason it's here as a warrant article is we want the townspeople to tell us, do you want this? Do you want us to spend the time, energy, resources to research it and develop a plan to make this happen? Because regulating it is definitely something we're gonna need to do.
We have been approached by one resident here in town who would like to start a business picking up curbside trash on a small scale basis. Ms. Gonier and I tried to come up with policy and then realized that we really didn't feel that we were comfortable just having the Board of Selectmen enacting this kind of policy without the community's input. So we put it on as a warrant article to see whether, what people thought of the idea.
I think the key thing to keep in mind as well is, as the previous two selectmen have indicated, this is to allow us to do this, the allow and regulate part. The regulate part, people might have 100 questions right now about what does that mean. That would be something we would tackle later on. Speaking just for myself right now, I don't want to ever see commercial vehicles, huge, triaxles or whatever, coming into the Newton transfer station to empty out trash. What I would like to see is I'd like to see some of the folks in town who already have access to the dump, who already have household trash, have the ability to pay somebody to bring that to the transfer station for them. So if this succeeds and I'm voting later, that's what my vision is. My vision is not to, quadruple or whatever the amount of trash we get at the transfer station. It's to keep the same volume, just give people the ability to have somebody else bring it there.
Only because I live at a place that has a dumpster and don't know. Are there any commercial people who do curbside pickup now in Newton? And
There
haul
are.
it, not to the transfer station?
There are, and they don't bring it to
No.
our transfer station.
They haul it
And they're not in Newton, they come to Newton, they pick up the trash, and then they take it out of Newton.
Right, okay.
Correct.
But that service is being done
Right.
at some
Yeah,
point.
yes, there are some larger companies out there that do come and offer that service for a fee.
Jim Baker, if there's already companies doing that, what's the benefit to let them use our dump? Would it be less expensive, or?
Could be
people-
revenue for the town.
Oh,
of
for the
Newton.
town, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Revenue is an important thing to note here too, because we have very little sources of outside of the taxes we all pay. Other means of revenue would be a good thing to look at.
Various things that Ms. Gonier and I looked at when we were trying to come up with a policy was the fact that it would have to be small scale. It would be single truck operations with no employees. However, if you want to see something bizarre, watch Ms. Gonier and I do policy together. We're either finishing each other's sentences or we're cats and dogs. So there's a lot of potential here.
And
but
the
it would be-
regulating's gonna be the tricky part. That's why it's, before we invest the amount of time it's gonna take to figure out how we're gonna regulate it, because we don't want it to happen without regulating it. The whole idea is not to let Kingston or, this big company from Brentwood start picking up other towns' trashes and including it in the Newton trash and bringing it to our transfer station. We also need to make sure that we come up with fees or whatever to ensure that it's not adding to the tax burden to the taxpayers. The people who used to have trash pickup now use the local who can come to the transfer station, so now the tax burden is increased because we've got more waste, or whatever the case may be. And these people are they allowed to take in bulk items? And if so, how are we going to handle that? There's a lot to look at. So tell us first, do you want us to do it?
Okay, now just weighing in my 2 cents. My problem with this whole thing is, we already have, like we said, a company that you can call to come pick up the Newton trash. If we start allowing people to do it, as far as I'm concerned, it becomes commercial, because now people are paying to throw the trash away. And anybody that's been at the transfer station with somebody with 10 cars in front of them with 4 bags each, they know how long it takes. Now you're gonna have a pickup truck with 40 bags in it, clogging the hopper, causing a traffic jam, and there's no way, I don't care what anybody says, that we can guarantee it's only Newton trash coming into the transfer station. I just don't think it's a good idea.
And from the preliminary research that I have already done, there aren't many transfer stations that allow these things to happen. Most of them do it the same way we do, or they only have the trash haulers who go to the transfer station. I found one that does. They have a scale. I don't think we want to invest in a scale. Chances are we'd have to invest in another compactor. I'm not so sure we want to do that either. So I'm not sure it's cost effective for us to do it, but it was brought to us, it was requested by us. We want you guys to tell us.
I have a question. So this, the warrant article allows us to do the policy,
Yes.
and who would finalize the policy? Would it be the Board of Selectmen?
Yes.
And if you can't come up with the policy, does that void the warrant article? If you can't come up with an agreement, or?
Well, we'll develop the policy.
This is just giving you permission,
Yes, it's just
Author-
giving us permission to do it.
but you don't have to
The-
continue with it after the March vote.
The
Correct.
key word is authorized, so.
Right,
Yep.
okay.
So that if they say, no, we don't want to authorize it, then we can't do it.
And
then
to
the
put it simply, voting yes on this warrant article does not mean that
Happens.
Right.
it happens,
Well, that's
that
what I said, so
business.
the board has the
Exactly,
final
yeah,
vote,
Exactly,
whatever you guys come up with,
Right.
so it could still be yes or a no.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, quite honestly, having worked hard on policies all this year, this one is going to take so much of an effort
It's gonna take a year.
that we want to make sure that the people in Newton are comfortable with the potential outcome of it.
Because I'm sure you'll have a public hearing anyway once you come up with the policy.
Probably, and it should be noted, what I just said a minute ago, the opposite is,
Right.
if this is voted no, this will not happen.
Yes.
We will not develop a policy, which means it will not be allowed.
Okay.
Any further discussion from the floor? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to recommend or not recommend.
I move to not recommend warrant Article 13 as written.
Second.
Your motion is to not
To
recommend?
not recommend?
Correct?
Okay.
Because it's going to be a nightmare.
Very good. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of not recommending?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. 2 in favor, opposed?
Nay, I guess.
Yeah.
That already carried. Can I just jump in here? When we do negative votes on warrants, I think they just confuse people.
Yeah, I was just going to
So-
say.
So let me, since you're not in favor of this, let me jump in here, and I would move to recommend Article 13 as written.
All right, is there a
Second for
second?
discussion.
Second for discussion.
I mean, I don't have an issue putting it out to the voters because the board still has the final say at the end.
It's still being put out to the voters. I'm just not recommending it. It's still going to be on the warrant. It's still going to be out there at the ballots in March.
Right.
I'm just not recommending it.
Which is fine, and I just think if we have if we have it written negatively, people get confused. So I think if we have 3 to 2 in favor or 2 to 3 in favor, it's
Well,
It's
what it
better.
would say is the Board of, if you have 2 in favor and 3 opposed, it would say the board does not recommend this article on a vote of 3 to 2.
right.
So very good. All those in favor of the recommendation?
Aye.
Aye.
So that's 3 in favor, opposed
Aye.
Aye.
is 2.
You're actually nay.
So
Yeah.
it,
Well, yes, we're opposed.
well, actually, it's going to say the Board of Selectmen does recommend this, 3 in favor, 2 opposed.
I think that reads better.
I just messed up all my notes, but that's okay. Okay, final thing is given our hand and seal the 16th day of January, the year of our Lord, 2017, by the Board of Selectmen. I will close the public hearing at this time. I will call the Board of Selectmen back to order. It was at recess. Simply long enough to make announcements that we want to announce the date for the deliberative session and for voting, if somebody will give them to me, because I didn't bring my cheat sheet.
February 4th is the deliberative with a snow date of the 11th, did we
9
say?
AM here.
9 a.m. in this room.
And the voting is on the 14th day of March, with the polls being open from 8 in the morning till 8 at night. We're choosing all necessary town officers. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. All those in
At
favor?
At 7:53.
We are adjourned at 7:54.